Hey guys, welcome back to Reserved Investments on YouTube. Really brief discussion about graded video games. I'm not going to make this video extra long. I know I'm long overdue to do another edition of Crazy Prices Paid for graded WATA video games, but this is not going to be that video. I just have two games that I do want to talk about that have been selling on heritage auctions that are graded by WATA and have sold in one instance for a very high price in my opinion, and in the other instance a very low price, so that I can give you guys a comparison to how these markets are operating. So the first game that I want to talk about is actually Winter Games, and the version that I am referring to is a 9.4 factory sealed copy that was introduced on the Nintendo Entertainment System back in 1987. This is a very early production game that hit the scene, was graded by WATA, and sold for $6,600. Now, in my opinion, this is an insane price to pay for a game like this. Now, let me give you the straw man's argument that my critics are going to use against me. Well, Sean, you don't understand. Winter Games was produced by Acclaim back in 1987, and how many of those particular games were saved in factory sealed condition? I'm going to come back to those critics and say, in 10, 20, 30 years, who the hell is going to care about a factory sealed copy of Winter Games released on the Nintendo Entertainment System back in 1987? It is not an iconic game for that system. Now, to be fair, the Winter Games, Summer Games, California Games franchise is iconic in a certain sense, in that Epix released those particular games on almost every vintage pre-Nintendo system and computer at the time. I remember playing Winter Games, Summer Games, and California Games on my Apple IIc computer when I had it as a kid. So those particular games are iconic if you are a vintage computer gamer. On the Nintendo Entertainment System, though, the Acclaim release, even if it is an early production game, of Winter Games for the Nintendo Entertainment System is not iconic on a grand scale of things by and large. Also, if you remember, I did state in a previous video that I did about a Star Voyager first print early edition that sold for over $10,000. That was a factory sealed game for the original Nintendo. I do not consider those items good investments, even in the short term, and especially if we talk about the mid or long term duration as to how some of these people are viewing these markets, where, well, I'm going to buy a factory sealed copy of X for the Nintendo Entertainment System, and I'm going to keep it for 10, 20, 30 years, and I think it's going to go up in value. I'm sorry. A copy of Winter Games released by Acclaim for the Nintendo Entertainment System is going to be forgotten. It is not an investable item over the long term. You're welcome to disagree with me. You're welcome to chew me up in the comment section below. I assure you, I understand these markets better than most. Buying an item like that is purely speculative, and paying that kind of a premium for it is, in my opinion, incredibly stupid. Now, on the other end of the spectrum, because I said I'm going to keep this video very short, there are a lot of WATA-graded copies of Space Jockey out there that are selling for peanuts. Literally, if you log on to Heritage, you can find a copy of Space Jockey that was graded by WATA Games in 9.2 condition for the Atari 2600. That's sold in brand new condition for $79. Now, if you don't know what Space Jockey is, it actually is kind of a fun game to play on the Atari 2600. It is a shooter. It was made by VidTech, and it came back out in 1982. Now, if you don't understand what happened in 1982, you're not paying attention, because 1982 was right around the same time that the video game market crashed back in the 80s in regards to American releases and home console systems. So I'm going to give you a spoiler alert here. Space Jockey, by and large, is a well-known warehouse find. So anybody out there trying to speculate on a lot of these Atari 2600 games, as I've said in other videos, you're going to most likely get burned, number one. Number two, most people are not paying a premium for games like this. I'm sure the person that found this cache of Space Jockey games kind of regrets it, because if they only made $79 on this particular sale, it was not enough to cover heritage auction fees, the grading fees, and the like of tying up that particular amount of money. In other words, this item sold at a loss overall. So please be very careful if you're going after a lot of these more esoteric Atari games. Paying a fortune for them is going to end badly in most cases. Most people 10, 20 years from now are not going to care about Atari 2600 games. And number two, there's a ton of them on the market, guys. I had somebody that contacted me literally last week, and I don't know if this is true or not. So I want to caveat this statement with that. But I am looking into this. He claims he came across a supplier that has a lot of factory sealed Atari 2600 Atari Club exclusives, meaning games like Crazy Climber, Quad Run, some of these more esoteric games that were not released back in retail back in the 1980s. They were mail order exclusives or given away through the Atari Club. I am trying to research this because I don't want to release any information on this channel or even hint at it if it's not 100% factual. And no, I am not involved in that side of the market because, again, I'm still trying to find out if this source is legit. But if that's true, that's going to be a game changer for you guys that are thinking, well, Sean, if I go after a WATA graded copy of Atari Video Cube or Rubik's Cube from the early 1980s that was released by Atari for the Atari 2600, that's an iconic game. And maybe, just maybe, it'll go up in value over the next 5 to 10 years. I'm sorry, guys. That is not likely to occur. Remember my golden rule when we talk about this stuff. There's a lot of this stuff out there. Even when we get to Nintendo, Super Nintendo, Sega Genesis, Nintendo 64, you are only seeing, at present time, a tip of the iceberg. What a lot of you guys should be doing out there is putting pressure on WATA Games to release the population reports of all these items that they're grading, so you guys have an idea of what's out there on the market today. Remember, guys, intelligent investors operating in the financial markets, in the collectibles marketplace, in the commodities, they want to have as much knowledge and transparency as possible. Putting pressure on WATA Games, hint, hint, to release their population reports would be wise to you overall if you're one of the people that come into my comment section and go, Sean, you don't know what you're talking about. Graded video games are going to be the next big thing. Well, Timmy, well, Poindexter, I don't know how we can verify that because I don't know how many copies of Game X WATA Games is grading in what condition at present time because they don't release their population reports on their website. They have no way for me to get a hold of that information. And as an investor, that's vital to me. It's no different when I talk about rare coin investing. If I went to NGC or PCGS's website and they took down their population reports, I would be crying foul. And I guarantee you, a lot of high-profile coin collectors, investors, and dealers out there would also be crying foul against those grading companies because that is information you need to make an intelligent decision as to where you're placing your money over the short term or the long term. So that's how I'm going to end this video, guys. A lot of you out there that reach out to me with anger and hate-filled comments, where's your anger towards these grading companies that don't release their population reports? I don't understand. Why are you attacking me? I'm not the one that put you in this predicament. I'm not the one that told you to buy a copy of Spider-Man for the Atari 2600 graded by WATA in 9.8 condition that some of you out there thought was a great investment when it hit Heritage and sold for $9,000 or even $4,500. Well, why don't you go look up how much a lot of those copies are selling for now on the secondary market? And while you're at it, why don't you tell me how many copies are out there on the secondary market? Oh, wait, you can't because you're too lost in the speculative bubble, paying these insane prices and attacking me instead of emailing WATA Games and asking them, hey, point blank, I want transparency in this market. Why aren't you releasing your population numbers for the items you are grading? That is key, guys. More videos on that topic to come because I am going to start putting pressure on WATA Games to release those reports. And it's going to be very eye-opening. Thank you for watching and have a great night.